Bengals Browns gonna kick it off week 1 of the 2025 season. And to say that 2024 did not go as planned for these two football teams would be an understatement. The Browns, winners of 11 games the season before when Watson was healthy, 5-1. You thought, hey, Watson comes back, he stays healthy this season, can play some good football. Nick Chubb obviously obliterates the knee, but if he can bounce back, absolute stud. We thought entering last season, was happy to say it was the best pure running back in the league. Unfortunately, when he does come back, well, we started to see the wear and tear. When Watson does come back, they struggle mightily. Under Watson, he gets hurt again. Bengals, on the other hand, same story. A slow start to the season, but they start clicking. They start playing better. All of a sudden, the Joe Burrow injury happens. He's out for the rest of the season. But hey, Jake Browning plays solid. Bengals still finish 9-8. And you think, hey, let's enter 2024. Very good shape. Bengals, once again, notoriously start slow. Defense, historically bad. And the Bengals, under Joe Burrow, under a historic season, one of the best seasons the Bengals have had offensively in their franchise's history. Joe Burrow just about thrown for 5K. Jamar Chase winning the Triple Crown. Trey Hendrickson nearly winning Defensive Player of the Year. All of that together. And the Bengals still found a way to miss playoffs. A disappointing season for both teams, to say the least. But we are entering the new season fresh. Hopes are back up. Optimism through the roof. Both teams, once again, a lot to prove. Both teams once again feeling like, hey, we can figure out last season's problems and move on from there. Browns a little bit different this year, though. They're going to start with Joe Flacco as their quarterback. Bengals once again are going to start with Joe Burrow under center here. Burrow and the Bengals actually ended up winning 2 games against the Browns last season. We're starting to hear the rumbling, starting to hear them a lot. Whereas, hey, the Browns have Joe Burrow's number. Bengals can't win in the division. But last season, Bengals silenced those critics. And I will say, feels good. Feels really good as a Bengals fan to know, hey, Joe Burrow and company has figured this Browns team out. I do think, once again, this season they do play some good football against this team. I will say, well, once again, you got to be careful. Those division games are always tough. And not just that. It was the Browns last season. It's the Browns every year. Whatever it is, Stefanski has got this Bengals defense's number. He's figured them out year in and year out for whatever reason. Even last season when Deshaun Watson was healthy, when he was playing in that game before he got hurt, he was going up and down the field in this Bengals defense. And it looked like a game. Thankfully for the Bengals, DTR, and not so thankfully for the Browns, DTR is such a bad quarterback that the Bengals defense managed to shut them down pretty easily. We got to keep that in mind going into this season. Fresh start, Joe Flacco under center. Gonna see a lot of the short game under Joe Flacco. Gonna see a lot of David Njoku, I think, in this one. The man to watch. Last season, it was Josh Downs. The year before, when he was with the Browns, it was Njoku. 3 of the 5 games Flacco started, Njoku 90-plus receiving yards, was lighting it up. It was actually the one game they kind of shut down. Njoku didn't play as much, or didn't see the ball as much, didn't make much big of an impact, was the one game Joe Flacco did lose. Keep that in mind. I can't believe this is just 2 years ago. I can't believe Joe Flacco's 40. I mean, I can't. Don't get me wrong. I can't believe he's 40. I can't believe he's in the league still. I feel like I was like 3 years old and the dude was in the Super Bowl. It's been a while. And still making an impact. Even last season, brought some hope to the Colts there for a little bit. He's a veteran presence that can make some plays. And that, to me, that's going to be the matchup. How Joe Flacco looks down the stretch this season. When you're at 40, you're declining. Unless you're Tom Brady. Most quarterbacks declining. I think you do see that. And Joe Flacco, he does make some mistakes. Can the Bengals capitalize on those mistakes? But I'm looking at that Njoku matchup. Bengals, younger, drafting the linebackers this season. Are we going to see some Dax Hill covering him? What are we going to see out of the Bengals? Because if they can find a way to stop that number one, that's going to be that quick outlet, I think, for Joe Flacco. That's when you're going to see him start to make mistakes. Joe Flacco, again, very susceptible to throwing the ball to the other team's Joe Flacco. The Bengals can force him to get to that second read, force him to second guess himself. I can see them making some plays here. I think that's going to be important for the Bengals here. They got to win the turnover battle, because I'm still not completely sold on this Cincinnati Bengals defense. Cincinnati Bengals defense, though, did just sign Trey Hendrickson. Got a pretty good chance to make some noise there. Shamar Stewart figuring it out. The Bengals, by the way, up and down all offseason. Looking back, one of the best offseasons this franchise has had. They bring in TJ Slayton up the middle. They do sign Shamar Stewart, an athletic freak. Trey Hendrickson here for another year. Somehow you manage to keep your Triple Crown winner along with T. Higgins on the other side. You still got Joe Burrow. You just signed Dalton Risner. We're still early. That's going to be an interesting one if Brisner ends up playing in this one. That's going to be an interesting one. If I find out we're what week and a half out right now, so still no clarity there if he will or won't play. Seems like it's a little bit rushed, not a lot of continuity there. Might see Patrick week 1. Gonna make an impact. That's gonna be huge for me. Is what can the Bengals put together here with what's gonna be their best offensive line under Joe Burrow and company more than likely this season. But right now they're gonna go up against, well, Myles Garrett and company, who, by the way, loves playing him some Cincinnati Bengals. Myles Garrett, 9 sacks in the 7 games he's played since Zach Taylor has come on over to the Cincinnati Bengals as the head coach. He has been very good. That's, well, Myles Garrett like. But now we're going to see what, and this is what's going to, really impact what this Bengals interior does. What kind of transition do we see week 1? They played the preseason, big deal there. But they're not just going to have to deal with Myles Garrett. They're going to have to deal with that dude that played from the team up north, Mason Graham. Top 5 draft pick, looking very solid in the preseason because you can't double both. And if this guy can win his 1-on-1 matchups, the interior of that defensive line, what kind of noise do we see made by that Browns defensive front? Going to be a fun matchup. Going to be an interesting one. Because I think those trenches, once again, are going to kind of dictate this game. We've seen it. We've seen it before. And I'm not going to be ignorant to the fact that the Bengals offense was lights out last season, could be lights out again this season. But the Browns in the trenches have found a way to slow down this team from time to time. And I'm a little worrisome of that. Because, yeah, the Browns were the 27th ranked scoring defense in the league last season. One of the things, again, keep in mind, something about trying to motivate a defense when your offense is atrocious. It's difficult. They're going to give up points. They're going to give up yards. They're on the field all game. Makes it difficult. So I try to be careful of that. The Browns bounce back this season. Anytime you got one of, if not the best defensive player on your team, you got a chance to turn things around pretty quickly. Got to be mindful of that if you're Bengals. But I just can't help but wonder what the difference, what the impact is going to be from a couple of things. Number one, Bengals play their starters in a preseason a couple of times. Make it known they are not wanting to start slow again. It has been the fact that the Bengals have started slow that has slowed them down, because when this team gets rolling, they are the scariest team in the AFC. Well, when their defense is playing with defense. But besides, you get the gist. By the time you get to December, nobody wants to play the Bengals. September, though, everybody wants to play them. But you give them those couple drives, couple of quarters in preseason, get that offensive line some continuity, which is ever so important. Get Joe Burrow and company those reps, ever so important. Team's going to be scary if that transitions really well into week 1. And I think it will. I think we're going to see a big impact there. I think we'll see the Bengals offense actually come out, starting to play, shining a little brighter. How the defensive plays, that's going to be an interesting one. That's matchup number 2. I'm kind of... Well, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We're going to really see what these coordinators got in Cincinnati and Cleveland. Tommy Rees getting a starting gig for Cleveland as their offensive coordinator this season. Al Golden going to be starting his first season as defensive coordinator for the Bengals. And they got a little bit in common here. Both guys, Notre Dame coaches in the past. They did play one season together as respective OC and DC in Notre Dame, which means, hey, they kind of have a little bit of an idea. Obviously, it doesn't transition into the NFL. College doesn't transition to the NFL, but still, schematically, you knew Al Golden kind of had a professional style of play he wanted to play in college. Do we see that transition? What does Reese have as an answer? Does Al Golden do it? The ultimate chess match early. How well do these coordinators game plan? I think you're going to learn a lot from that just because they are a little bit familiar with what they want to do. Of course, again, transitioning offense, especially offensively from college to NFL, a little bit different, but we see Reese get the advantage there, just knowing, hey, probably going to try a little bit of what he tried over there in college ball. Meanwhile, Reese knowing, hey, I can't do exactly the same. We'll see. That'll be a good one. That'll be a good matchup. Because end all be all, I think the Bengals are going to put up some points. They're going to put quite a few points up on this one. Because, again, starting off rolling, there's no injury concerns. Yeah, there was a contract disputes, but Jamar T. Higgins, he was out there a lot. Joe was out there playing, getting enough reps into the fact that he was out there playing with some of the number 3s, the number 4s out there, trying to build some chemistry, some continuity with them in the preseason. Getting those wrinkles out. One of the things I talked about a couple weeks ago was like, hey, you seen T. Higgins drop that ball, or you seen Burrow make this mistake. It's like those are things, typically they happen in week 1, week 2. But because you played those preseason games, they happened in preseason game week 2, week 3. Could have been drive killers, but you got those wrinkles. You got that rust knocked out early. I think that's a big impact. I think we're going to see this Bengals offense click, and we're going to see them play very good football. It's just going to be, again, how was that the interior of the offensive line play? And can the Browns keep up? Can the Bengals force a couple turnovers? If the Bengals get a turnover or two out of Joe Flacco, I think it's easy and smooth sailing in this one. But hey, if the Browns want to win this one, Joe Flacco plays some clean football. Njoku has a big game. That defensive line dominates the Bengals offensive line. And it could leave the Bengals once again worrying, hey, close start once again, losing to a 3-14 football team. 3-4 football team, I think, plays much better than what that record says this season, by the way. But the Bengals, to me, it's too much, though, for this Cleveland Browns team. And of course, you got to worry out the defensive line. Some things haven't changed. It's been the same team year in and year out, but now the difference is Joe Burrow is clicking on all cylinders, not just with his 2 wide receivers, but now Gesicki returning. It's been a long time since Joe Burrow has had a chance to build some chemistry over the years with a tight end. So you throw that outlet in there. Chase Brown, who I think is set and poised for a big breakout season. Of course, we've seen some glimpses last season. I think he becomes a big weapon out of the backfield, not just on the ground, but in the passing game. And I think the Bengals once again find a way to put up points in this one. Just worried about that defense. That defense, who I think over time, I still trust in Al Golden figuring out. But we're early in the season. Right now, there's going to be some mishaps. Preseason was ugly. You know, they said, hey, we wasn't going to show them. We didn't want to show much. But they definitely did that. They succeeded there. But again, it is preseason. Why give your... I do get that. Why show your looks? Why show the scheme you're game planning for the Browns ahead of time? You don't have to. What can you dial up week 1 that they're not expecting? That's the difference. As much as we can look at the past, big difference here is there's no Lou Anarumo on defense for this Bengals team that is, again, mightily struggle. Say, call it what it is. They mightily struggled to stop the Browns in the past, but we're going to see a different scheme, different defensive coordinator. Whole different look in that regards. Meanwhile, on the offense, I think they just continue to get better and improved against a Browns defense. And I think the Bengals find a way to win this one. I'm going to say they win this one 24-21.